Rashad, Chael was telling us the story about when you guys were on the UFC Tonight set and he found out that you were fighting. He showed you the text.
Orchestrated it with Dana White.
Is that how it went? He orchestrated it?
That's how it went.
He said he felt you kind of sizing him up after that. Was there any awkwardness at all?
Yeah, once I felt that he was on a menu, he already started looking like something good to eat, you know. But you know, we were working together, and he's like, he said, "Hey man, I got a text from Dana." I asked him about who my next opponent was, and then he showed me the text, and he said you, and I'm like, oh man, it's already on now. We already distinguished the idea. I mean, distinguished the idea that we even will fight, just because of the fact that we had such good working chemistry. You know, and I thought that maybe they wouldn't do that just because it'll bring a little bit of awkwardness, you know. But we were both wrong.
He says he's not going to rub it in if, you know, he should win. What would your side of that be if you win? Would you rub it in at all?
No, I wouldn't rub it in, but I wouldn't overtly rub it in, I guess. It's like, I wouldn't be like, you know, I wouldn't make a big deal about it, but every once in a while I'll give him a look like, you know what happened.
He said he'd have to get your coffee or something like that.
Yeah,
He'd be on coffee detail.
I'd do a coffee detail. Like, I won't be able to say nothing about anything.
He says that he doesn't even think he can take you down, that your wrestling is that good, that your takedown defense is that good, that he's trying to come up with plan B and C. What are your thoughts on that?
I think Chael's just running game. What he's trying to do is he's trying to do the oldest trick in the book. He's trying to disarm me. You see that? Y'all see what's happening? I'm falling for it? I'm not falling for it. So some folks thinking like, you know, going there with uber confident, but meanwhile he's already got in his mind. Let's be honest here. Chael Sonnen has one way of fighting, and that's coming straight at you. You know, it doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what your game plan is. He has one game plan, and that's impose his will, which is, you know, he does with everybody he fights. And I'm expecting him to do that on Saturday.
He's actually said that he's not going to come across the cage and run right at you.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it, but I'll tell you what, if he doesn't come right at me, then I'm going to come right at him, so he better.
How about all these new coaches that you have down at the Black Zillions that have really kind of, it seems to even given you part of what your resurgence is and your last few fights here. What can you credit to those coaches that have come down that are new to the Black Zillions facility?
You know, I'll tell you, our coaches are amazing. Henry Hoof, Kenny Monday, George Santiago. Those guys run a great camp. Pedro Diaz, great camp. You know, and one thing they do more than anything is that they're able to communicate to each fighter. You know, a lot of times when you get on a team, the individual seems to be lost, and the individual part of the sport seems to be lost. But our sport is a two-part process, meaning the fact that one is the individual, the big part is the individual, but a large part as well is the team aspect, and that is based upon the fact that I can't go out there and win a fight by myself. I need my training partners. I need the next guy in the room trying to knock my ass out, because if he doesn't, the guy in the cage is going to try to do that to me. So it's a team aspect in that point, and our coaches have done a very good job of reaching out and nurturing our individual side, our individual weaknesses, and things that, you know, we need to get better on, the things that we're very good at, and trying to make the things that we're good at really good.
You, the Black Zillions, the first year you guys were around, took a lot of criticism. But lately, it's been a big win streak. We just saw Vitor do his thing, you know, obviously Eddie Alvarez. I mean, do you feel like you guys have turned the corner, and everyone that was trying to judge you back then was just, you know, you had to sit back and just listen to it and wait, because we knew the results would come?
Yeah, you know, you put together the team, and it's, you know, it's like, in a sense, a dream team. You know, and there's all these great expectations that was supposed to follow, but when we didn't live up to that right away, and we had our rough moments trying to make sure everything gelled together, trying to make sure all the pieces fit, we took a lot of heat. But I think taking a lot of heat was probably the best thing for us as a team and us individually speaking, because we learned what it really means. And that, I mean, when you are only used to hearing praise, only used to hearing good things, you're not able to distinguish sometimes how to build yourself in your mind, mentally speaking. You know, how much to buy into it. You know, so if you only used to hearing the good things, then you have a bit of an inflated ego, you know. So once you hear both sides of it, you kind of understand it from where it is. You kind of understand, like, okay, there's going to be good things said about me, and there's going to be bad things said about me. But at the same time, I'm not going to let either one of these things define who I am. You know, and that's what we need to do. Not let one thing, whether it be good or bad, define who we are as a team. because truth of the matter is we may hit another rough spell. But because we hit a rough spell before, we know how to make it through. And that's through hard work and perseverance.
How much did your leadership help? Because you guys went through that at Jackson's. I remember that there was a streak where I think it was your tie with Tito, and there was just a streak there for where you guys were going through some losses. Did you kind of implement any leadership in those moments when it was getting to be a kind of a rough time?
I did. I tried to do the best I can, but I was going through a rough time as well. And I guess the thing about it was the fact that actually a lot of the younger guys helped out because they kept bringing this, their naiveness to the whole game, brought a sense of freshness because they didn't really get a full spectrum of the idea of what was going on. So for them, they kind of brought this energy to the gym every single day, and I was able to feed off of that energy, that brand newness, that excitement to want to go out there and be the best again. And that's what it was. Henry Hoof had a very good conversation with us, and he told us, he says, listen, let's just stop looking for the secret to fighting. Let's stop looking for a new way to do this. We all know how to do this. We're fighters. This is what we do. Let's stop trying to make too much of this what it is. What we do is we come in here and we fight every single day. But we got to make sure we come inside this room and fight every single day. We got to make sure you come in here to push your teammate. So let's stop let's get away from all these private sessions here, private sessions there, because when you do that, a lot of guys would go do the private sessions and not really show up for the class part. But it's really big on pushing the class part, because in the classroom and with that's where we got better, because we were pushing each other.
Rashad, this is you're fighting on the 20th anniversary card here. There's been kind of a lot of nostalgia talk. I'm just curious, do you remember what was the first time you heard of UFC, or what was the first fight you saw?
The first time I heard of UFC, I think it was in a Black Belt magazine. I was doing karate at a Tang Sudo place in Niagara Falls, and me and my friend talked about what would happen if a boxer go against, a karate guy, Bruce Lee went against Mike Tyson for the longest time, and we heard about this is going to be happening, so we ended up watching the first UFC. We were babysitting some kids, and we ended up watching the first UFC.
Kids were put to bed?
Yeah. The kids were already sleeping. Okay. We had like one of those old cheater boxes. Remember those old cheater boxes?
Yeah.
We had one of those joints, and we were watching it. And we were just amazed, man, because it answered all our questions, and it was just so amazing to see, martial arts on the stage that it was on, a real life stage, not just some, idea of what it could be like, in a kata, if this happened, he can do this and do this. It was real life, you know what I'm saying? And we seen a lot of techniques that we thought would be finishing moves, not be finishing moves, like somebody strike the knee, we used to think that would be like an immobilizing move, the knee would break in half, like some Steven Seagal movie, but that wasn't the case, you know what I'm saying? So it shelled a lot of our ideas, but it opened up a lot of them too, and I remember walking away that night from the fight, just being like, man, I want to be a fighter. I remember telling my instructor that I want to be a fighter, and it was just something crazy, because now here I am 20 years later, I'm a fighter, and I'm fighting in the 20th anniversary.
What were those next few steps after you said your head, I want to be a fighter? Where did it go from there?
I continued to do my karate career, and at the time I really got into wrestling, but football was calling me, so I balanced out. I stopped doing karate, and then I started doing more of just playing football and wrestling, But it was always something that I was a big fan of, And then when the UFC went into the dark ages, when it was really not on TV anymore, I was always trying to find a way to get those VHS tapes or find a way to watch those fights, man.
I'm sorry, Sean, let me just interrupt just 30 seconds here. Dave's got a quick announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have one quick final announcement to make for you
by the way.
today.
Look a little quicker today than
UFC
have to go back to the room and
167's Johny Hendricks, along with UFC legend and former heavyweight champion of the world, another legend joining us today, Mark the Hammer Coleman. Johnny and Mark, come on out.
Mark's not coming. But I am coming.
Mark's not coming.
Who made the biggest impact? We've seen Mark play, we've seen Horse play.
What do we do? Just some photo ops? Yeah.
What, we're going full roll live?
Yeah.
15 minutes?
Hey, Mark.
The
guy who really showed the side.
compete. You know, for me to be able to know, for me to see what was right there and hear it, sizing didn't matter, but be confident.
Did it blow your mind as much as the game took you running? I was watching, what is this thing that he's doing?
It did. It blew my mind. I didn't know what the heck he was doing. It was like some magic trick, you know what I'm saying? It was crazy how he would just find a way to get those submissions and find a way to outwork the guy, even when it seemed like he was, he was going to lose. You know, and back in the day, like it was thought, when you're back, the fight's over, you're going to lose. You know, the guy on the bottom always loses. He changed the whole mindset.
Rashad, you had friendship wife or
No, it's more tough. So damn fucking. Oh! I have a very close connection with everybody else. Those guys were family to me for a long time before he came into the picture. So sometimes a sense of me losing a piece of my family. That hurt. That's done more than me.
Do you want another shot at him? Do you think that this fight?
Oh, I need my glasses on.
I definitely want a chance to touch
Yeah, as soon as I start hitting. Nah, hopefully not. But
however long it takes, that's how I'm going to do it. You know, I have full confidence in my skills. I have full confidence in the fact that I can. I do feel like myself again, and the sting has wore off. You know, it was just, you know, a big part of moving on in life is just forgiving. You know, and that was hurting my shoulder. That was actually hurting me more. But once I was able to just, started to move forward. No longer did I have those feelings of, betrayal that I had before. It was just, I had a different understanding of the whole situation. Sometimes a lot of people just have to go in different directions. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's hard to do, but at the same time, nevertheless, you all have to go in different directions at some point.
Was there a certain moment that kind of clicked?
I can't really say what was the exact moment, but I remember just sitting there one day, and it just kind of like occurred to me, like, you know what? What was it all about? You know, I think it was like I seen Greg somewhere, and I started to not speak. I started to put my head down and not speak and keep walking like I did before. But now I was like disappointed. Like, I used to share some great times, some great times with him, and he was somebody a good friend. You know, and the same thing on Mike Wimbledon. I tried to, I had a grudge with him for the longest time, but you know what it was actually? It was right before the fight with Nogueira. That's exactly what it was in the locker room. In the locker room. I had that kind of like that piece. Maybe that's why I fought so outside.
Tell us about your airport meeting with tell us about your airport meeting with Rampage.
I seen Rampage, yesterday.
sore jaw.
Yeah, he was going to the Bellator fight. And we chopped it up a little bit. He was like, hey, let's take a picture, man. I'm tired of everybody saying I look like you, man. Everybody saying I'm you, man. Shit.
He didn't look happy in the picture. He looked happy at all.
He was smiling before that. You know, it's Rampage. Rampage always, he's always got to look disgusted. That's his image. He can't be caught smiling.
Who saw you first?
I seen, actually, Tyrone seen it, and then when I left him, he was about to board on his plane.
Speaking of Tyrone, make his way.
I don't know. He's been working on it, working his way up there, as far as doing kickboxing, and now he's going to just venture into doing boxing now. So he's going to be doing a lot of these sports, pretty soon. But he's just taking his time with it more than anything. He's not really rushing everything, especially with MMA. There's so many facets to the sport, and him being, a striker at heart and basis. He really has to, make sure he is all well-rounded.
He's got a pretty good wrestling coach there, right?
He does. Yeah, I heard he's all right.
What's the harder fight, Rashad? Is it the one where there's so much animosity and dislike, like with John or maybe Rampage, or this one where you and Chael are legitimately friends and kind of like he was telling us 2 weeks later, you guys are gonna be on the same set again together? So
yeah, it's it remains to be seen, because I've never been in a situation where I actually had to fight somebody that I'm like, this cool, and there's not that feeling. Like when I see him, I don't get that feeling like I'm gonna punch him in his face. You know what I'm saying? So it's more of like a competition more than anything, just competitively speaking. It doesn't have that fight feeling.
hopefully when it comes time for the fight, and I'm pretty sure I will be able to hit the switch and just make it a fight.
How do you see the main event? Who's going to win and why?
It's really hard to say, but I'm a George St. George is my guy all the way. And, we train together, we share some time together, so I can never go back.
Rashad, when you fought Dan in the last fight,
My bad.
what was wrong with you when you fought Kira, come back and look like the older shot? When you won the fight, when you watched it, were you 100% happy with it? Did you feel like you were the older shot? Or?
There was I was happy with the performance, meaning the fact that I worked through, and there was some tough times in the fight where I had to really dig down deep and go for it, and that reminded me of my old self, and that's what I had to do to even get to the position where I am right now. So it did remind me of myself, but I did see a lot of things that I could have done better, and I wasn't relaxed enough. But when you're on that, it's the proverbial bubble that the UFC puts you on when you lose 2 fights in a row. Even if they're not going to cut you or not, you still feel it, and there's a sense of urgency where you got to get it done, you got to find a way to get it done. You don't want to go out there and take too many risks. Especially somebody like Johny Hendricks who can put you out with your hand.
Yeah. First time I've worked out.
Careful, so I wish I would have took a little bit more risk in the fight, but at the same time,
Couple days? Yeah.
Was there something like exhausting about that fight? Because you did look tired in the third round. Is that what you're talking about? Deep?
Yeah, it's exhausting because when you chucking those punches as hard as you can and you ducking those punches and you gotta grab and all those things like that. It does take a little bit.
What can you say about Vitor just briefly? It's not every day that we see a guy, and not to say that he's completely changed his style, but he's evolved. It seems like a lot of guys, once they get to a certain age, they're sort of the same guy, and they're just getting shaken anyway. They look the same, what has Vitor just so much different?
The thing that I can say that Vitor has done more than anything is that he discovered himself. He's 100% confident, he's comfortable in his own skin. And that's something that he may have been fighting with before, and it may have been leading to the fact that he would get the performance and the value which he would compete. But now he has this piece about himself. And it reminds me of the thing that Randy Couture told me when I was going to fight Chuck, and it was just make things the worst outcome. And it seems to me that Vitor has made things with the worst outcome. There's not an outcome that can happen in the fight that he can't live with. He knows that no matter what happens, he's going to be okay. And once you compete like that, it makes you go out there and actually try things. Just be free.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? You see those guys like John Jones and Anderson Silva and those guys who go out there and just, they seem like they're just in their own zone. And it's because they're out there free. You know what I'm saying? They're not really worried because they're ultimately confident in their skill and their technique.
Can't give away all these.
At times I have. I can't say I consistently found that niche yet, but I'm working on it.
For you, when you talked about stress of being on the bubble, once you come off of that win, it's a lot easier for you to go to training camp without that stress because it seems like it's a lot more mental for you.
It is a lot easier to go when you're not on that bubble anymore because you just kind of can get back to fighting the way you can fight. You know what I'm saying? You know that because you try not to think about it. You try not to be like, I've lost 2 fights in a row. But what happens is people start coming up to you, talking to you like that. People treat you that kind of way. So before long, it does seep into your mind. It gets in your head. Pretty soon, the voice in your head starts to become the voices of other people saying things like, man, you think you're still bad? Man, you think you're washed up? Man, and then that becomes that voice. And then you got to kind of rewrite that voice and try to teach it to say some positive things. But that could be the difficult part. So when you don't have to worry and hear that the whole time, you only got the good voice the whole time.
One more question, Gary?
Thanks, Rashad.